Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette. In today's video, we'll discuss the best ways to wear a staple of the smart casual dress code and the fall season, a flannel shirt. Right up there with things like denim jeans, the flannel shirt is something that's worn by all different kinds of people going for all different kinds of aesthetics. And while there are different ways to wear a flannel, we're going to discuss today how you can incorporate them into the classic men's style pantheon. True, flannels can be worn as part of a grunge aesthetic, a goth aesthetic, a hipster aesthetic, and so on. But that's outside of the scope of what we cover here at the Gentleman's Gazette. If you'd like to know how best to wear a flannel in those circumstances, you might want to look elsewhere. But for a classic menswear take, we've got you covered. With that said then, it can be a bit trickier to incorporate a flannel into a classic menswear look. However, there certainly are ways to do it. Before we get into any specific looks though, we need to cover exactly what a flannel shirt is. When you hear the term flannel shirt, it probably conjures images of a button-up shirt in a plaid or tartan pattern, probably with features like a button-down collar, button cuffs, and maybe some pockets. And while a pattern, particularly a check pattern like tartan, can be an important component of many flannels, the only thing that really qualifies a shirt as a flannel is the fabric it's made from. So, what is flannel then? Originally, the term flannel exclusively applied to a fabric that was made from carded wool. We've got more information on this in our guide to the flannel fabric itself, which you can find here. But suffice to say that carded fabrics are brushed and retain both long and short fibers, giving them a softer feel. This is in contrast to combed fabrics, which are tightly woven together and discard the short staple fibers. They're going to be smoother and more formal overall, and worsted wool would be an example of this type of fabric. These days, flannel shirts can be made from many other fabrics aside from wool, such as cotton or even synthetics, but they're often still carded to retain that soft and cozy texture that flannel shirts are famous for. And flannel shirts today can come in various weights and degrees of fineness, so you've got a multitude of options when incorporating them into your outfits. So, while any shirt that's made from flannel can necessarily be referred to as such, there are still many people who would consider the tartan pattern to be an almost mandatory component. If you'd like more information on tartans and plaids, you can check out our video on that subject here. With that understanding out of the way then, let's say that you're in the market to buy some flannel shirts to incorporate into your classic menswear wardrobe. What should you be looking for? Well, firstly, we'd recommend that you find shirts that are made from actual flannel, either in wool or in cotton. We'd stay away from the synthetic fibers as they aren't going to give you the same texture and feel, and they'll often be in more contemporary designs that won't mesh well with the aesthetic you're going for. Secondly, try to find flannels that are built and structured more like traditional dress shirts. In other words, one of the biggest things you're going to be looking for here is length. If you're observing advertisements for flannels that are worn untucked by all the models, chances are they're probably going to be too short to be tucked in anyway, and this isn't exactly the look that you're going for. They should have enough length that you can tuck them in comfortably, and they'll look more put together that way. It's also important to choose your pattern carefully. You should probably be going for medium to small scale check patterns or tartans in particular. These medium to small patterns will tone down the boldness of the shirt itself and therefore make it more versatile. You should probably avoid striped patterns or patchwork checks because these are going to be louder and bolder, and as we say, therefore, not as versatile. And you could of course opt for a solid flannel as well, as this is going to be maximally versatile in pairing with different garments. And just as you should be choosing your patterns carefully, so too should you give a careful eye to color. Often, patterns that feature 3 or more colors are actually going to be less bold than patterns that only feature 2 colors, because these 2-color patterns will often try to incorporate high contrast, something that is necessarily bolder. We'd suggest that you try to steer clear of high contrast patterns and colors, such as black and white together, opposite colors on the color wheel like green and purple in bold and bright shades, or something very dark like navy blue against something very bright like yellow. Essentially, analogous colors or muted and neutral hues are going to be your best choice here. By the way, if you'd like to learn more about some of that color terminology, our video on the color wheel and how to use it in assembling outfits can be found here. Finally, avoid overly casual details like flapped pockets, snaps, or contrast stitching. This is just going to make your flannel look more like workwear than something that can truly be incorporated into the classic men's style canon. Now that you've found the flannel shirts you'd like to wear, let's tackle the main question of today's video: how to best wear those flannel shirts. Keep in mind that by and large, the nature of flannel shirts is a slightly more bold look. Using the techniques we outlined above, you can tamp down some of that boldness a bit and thus make the flannels more versatile. Be aware, though, that you're not going to wear flannels in very formal outfits, as there's going to be a fundamental clash of formality there. More on this later. So, assuming you'd like to wear a flannel while avoiding looking like a lumberjack, hipster, or skater, here are our suggestions on how to do it. Overall, our biggest suggestion is to try to dress your flannels up just a little bit. Now, don't misunderstand here, since we did just mention the fundamental clash in formalities if you were to try to wear a flannel with a business suit. Don't do something like that, but keep the flannel more in the realm of the smart casual dress code in how you layer and pair it, and you should be good to go. Speaking of layering, other garments that can be worn on top of a flannel shirt are things like a sports jacket in a more casual weave, pattern, or color, or knitwear like sweaters. You could also incorporate some accessories, maybe perhaps a knit tie, but not anything too formal like a smooth silk tie, because that clash of formalities will again come into play. And as we've already covered, since the patterns of flannels are typically larger and a bit bolder than most other garments, you should keep your patterns to a minimum in the jackets or sweaters that you're layering on top of them. Of course, if you're wearing a solid-colored flannel shirt, you've got a bit more liberty in how you incorporate patterns, but overall, just make sure that things are working harmoniously, and if you are wearing multiple patterns, they're incorporated at slightly different scales that look pleasing to the eye. As far as pants are concerned, you've got a number of options here. You can pair flannels with anything from denim to corduroys to odd trousers. Bolder flannels would best be paired with denim, of course. More conservative ones would go best with slacks, and those in the middle could be worn with corduroys, khakis, or chinos. Feel free to experiment with your different flannels to see what works best. When it comes to footwear, you can lean a bit more to the casual side as well. Try something like a loafer, especially in suede if you want to incorporate a bit more texture. You could also wear flannels with different kinds of boots, such as the chukka boot, Chelsea boot, or the leather boots I'm wearing here today. In essence then, while we recommend that you look for flannels that incorporate a bit more of a conservative dress shirt-like styling, you still shouldn't treat a flannel exactly like a conventional dress shirt. Don't pair it with a worsted wool business suit and a silk tie, as that clash of formalities will be too great. Your flannel shirt should be more on the conservative side, but if you pair it more with garments that go well in the smart casual dress code, that will be your best bet. Essentially here, you should let the flannel shine for what it is. A great, smart casual garment that's worn especially well in fall, but also in other seasons as well. To illustrate the principles we've laid out in today's video, we found a number of flannels that would go well with different kinds of outfits. Here's a brief rundown of the different styles. 3 of our options today came from LL Bean, and the first is the one I'm wearing here, in a tartan pattern of navy, light blue, and red. The blues here are muted, while the red serves to provide just a bit of contrast without being overwhelming. And while the shirt does feature 2 breast pockets, they are only topped off by single buttons and don't have flaps, snaps, or other such accessories. I'm pairing this shirt with medium brown slacks and a brown leather belt. My shoes are dark oxblood penny loafers, which harmonize with the belt and also bring out some of the red tones of the shirt, as well as the brown of the trousers. My socks also harmonize directly with the shirt, as they're red and blue shadow striped socks from the Fort Belvedere shop. You can find them, as well as shadow striped socks in a variety of other colors, here. Also worn with the brown trousers and brown leather elements is this blue heather flannel, also from LL Bean. It's solid in color and much more muted, and therefore it can be paired with my charcoal gray herringbone sport coat. I've chosen a pocket square that's largely blue in color and incorporates a bit of patterning, also from the Fort Belvedere shop, so there is a slight element of interest, but nothing too overwhelming, and the overall outfit still falls directly into smart casual. The final offering from LL Bean is this houndstooth flannel in an off-white and greenish-brown color, which I've paired with a brown cardigan sweater. It's definitely a more casually woven sweater, so everything goes together in that casual feel. I've chosen to pair this one with corduroys in a mustardy tan color and leather boots. This blue and gray checked flannel from Orvis has a slightly larger and bolder pattern, so I've chosen to minimize its effect by wearing it under this oatmeal-colored quarter-zip sweater. I've paired this one with gray slacks to harmonize with the gray in the shirt itself, as well as some tan suede loafers. Finally today is a burgundy and blue tartan pattern flannel from Charles Tyrwhitt. With this flannel, I've chosen to wear both denim jeans and some leather boots to bring out the burgundy colors, and also to contribute to an overall less formal vibe.